Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Crazy One with your girl TQ.
Hey.
And we are back for another edition of Data Hoppers, but this time we are coming back with something very, very special, and that something is that this is the Avengers Endgame spoiler review.
Yes,
if
it
you
is.
have not seen this movie, go turn us off right now. We're giving you fair warning.
Turn it off.
Go somewhere, watch the movie, come back, and then let's talk about it because there's a whole lot to talk about.
Yes.
A 3 hour plus movie.
Yes.
And
worth every
in my opinion, this is probably my number one or number two superhero movie of all time. I'm talking like Captain America Winter Soldier is one of my favorite.
One of your favorites.
And I think this is kind of like fighting for like my number one, number two with The Dark Knight as my number three.
This had to be, well, my number one is the original Superman. Everybody knows that.
I hate the movie.
That's not going anywhere. It will stay number one.
You got your opinion.
This has to be a close second.
Uh-huh.
It had everything. It was, again, 3 hours, but it was, I didn't go to the bathroom.
She cried.
Yes, I did. You told everybody I was going to cry. Yes, I did. But it was just that good.
Yeah.
It was really that good. I didn't want to miss anything. And everyone, and Andre at least knows that, he was like, listen, you go to the bathroom before.
Go to the bathroom before you leave, right?
When
we get to the theater, all right, go to the bathroom again before you go into the theater.
Man, oh man, I had to go to the bathroom so bad, but I didn't want to miss anything.
And it's one of those things, there are a couple of articles out there that says, here's where you can go to the bathroom. I agree if it's your second time watching it.
Yeah,
if it's your first time watching it,
you don't
don't go anywhere because a lot of people are talking about its pacing, and it may have some pacing issues, and the movie does not it doesn't suffer from pacing issues, but what it does,
it's a setup.
It sets up it's a lot of character build up because you got to remember, if you go in like I did watching Infinity War right before you go, just to kind of get the feel of everything that happened and what's going on.
You're going right into
it ended on an emotional low.
Yeah.
And when a movie ends on an emotional low like that, you can't come in on like a super like,
all the way up
hey
here.
guys,
you can't do it.
In the last episode,
you can't.
They did do in the last episode, but when they did in the last episode, it was in the last episode somewhere else,
right,
while the last episode was happening. And this is where we see the image of Clint and his daughter teaching her how to shoot a bow and arrow.
Yes.
And this has to be like, as a father, probably has to be like one of the saddest things.
Yeah, so this was like during the last movie.
This is during Infinity War.
Infinity War. This is
going on
at the same time.
Actually, it's going on at the same time as Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Right.
Because you saw the house arrest bracelet.
Right. So this is like at the end of Ant-Man and Wasp, and at the end of the Avengers, and you can watch the movie and like picture, like you said, going from one movie straight to the next one. Not even. I mean, you know that there's a gap, but there was no gap. There was no gap. You can go right into it and not miss a beat. I do want to say, a lot of people, before seeing the movie, a lot of people were talking, and they didn't want to see Endgame because they haven't seen Captain Marvel. You do not have to see Captain Marvel in order to understand.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
It helps.
It helps. If you want to know the origin story of Captain Marvel and why she's so strong and all of that, yes, see it. But you do not have to watch. It's not an exclusive. Like, you have to see it before. Now, there are some movies that you have to see. You have to see Ant-Man and Wasp.
You have to see Ant-Man and Wasp. You have to. Listen, this is what I recommend, all right? If you have not done it already, go to c1radioshow.com. There is a list of all the Marvel movies in chronological order, not the order of release, but in chronological order. And go watch that before go watching Endgame, and you will get and understand and a whole lot,
Yeah.
a whole lot that it is packed into this. If you were one of those people that said, I'm going to do a Marvel movie a day up until I go see Endgame, kudos to you, because you will, wait a minute, I'm talking to people who, I'm talking to people who have already seen the movie. You guys are the real MVPs, because you know when they started to do the whole time travel thing,
yes,
it just kicked off. But
Yes.
before we even get to the whole time travel thing, we have the, we have the, you have the Clint, and his family gets dusted.
Right.
And, it flips a switch. But then you go
Also
back
going
to
space. We're in space now.
No, we're not. We're at Avengers headquarters.
Right. We didn't get to that part yet.
So here's the thing. At the end of Captain Marvel, there is a tag, which is why you have to see Captain Marvel. So there's a tag where she shows up and she's like, hey, where's Fury? But you have the whole story with Tony Stark, and they're trying to figure out what's going on and how is this stuff happening, and they lost, and they're in the Guardian spaceship. They, figured out how to get a couple more days out of the ship, but fuel cells busted, and Tony is all set to die. Captain Marvel shows up, and boom.
Man, and that's I was at the right part.
So we bring them back to Earth, and then we have the reuniting of Tony and Steve.
Now remember, before they left, that was the first time that they had seen each other in a couple years in Infinity War.
Yeah.
That was the first time they had seen each other once they fought.
No,
they didn't even see each other.
It was Civil War.
Well, but in
Infinity War,
they never saw each other.
No,
They were supposed to.
it was Civil War.
But he was supposed to be called.
Right.
And
Banner called him.
Banner ended up calling him, so they never even got into the same place.
Right.
So when they see each other in Endgame, it's not pretty.
It's really,
not pretty.
I mean, it's pretty at first. It's pretty at first because when they got off the thing, it's like, oh, I'm back on Earth, and Steve is the first thing I see, and he hugs Steve. And then Pepper comes in, and she hugs Tony, and they get him in. They try to, they got Tony hooked up to an IV. They're feeding him food, and then
he flips.
He just all the aggression that he had against Steve, and
especially going through all of this. That when they started, they did everything together. Everything was done together, except for when they started. When we got to
this goes back. No, it wasn't Winter Soldier. It was Age of Ultron. This is where it goes back where Tony was trying to have a defense around the planet. He said, and he starts going, and what did I say? A suit of armor around the world, right? And I wanted this, and I wanted that, and I wanted to protect the world. And what did you say? I was wrong, right? No. And I said, but what if we lose? You said we do that together, but just split.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it together. He flipped.
And it was like, you said we would go through this together in all of this, and in each of those movies past then, they weren't together.
Right.
So it was like, I'm really fighting this war, although they were still fighting together, just in two totally different places. And it was interesting that Tony didn't look at it that way.
No, because
especially with Infinity War, because they were both still fighting.
Well,
they were just in different places.
The very first words that Tony said to Steve was, "I couldn't beat him."
Right.
And then Steve says, "I couldn't beat him either."
Right.
That was the thing. It wasn't the fact that they were separate. Because even if they were separate, they still would have had the same fate because they couldn't, there was no way they prepared for Thanos.
Right.
But it was the thing that Tony lost so much emotionally. I mean, Steve lost his best friend, his war buddy, yeah. But you have a kid that you're responsible for.
Yeah, that hit him hard.
That hit him hard. The loss of Spider-Man hit Tony so hard, it wasn't funny. And when he lashed out, he was still weak, and they showed him he was crippled up and decrepit, and
dying.
Yeah, he like it was.
They were
on
on like 22 days. I think they were on like 22 days after the snap. When they first showed Tony.
Yeah.
So he was preparing to die. They only had 20 hours left of oxygen left in the
Yep.
in the ship. So when Captain Marvel came, they were right at death's door.
Right.
They were right there.
And it wasn't like for Nebula, she's like more machine now.
Right.
So she didn't need, she allowed Tony to get the nourishment and everything like that. And it was really a heartwarming thing because you saw Nebula's turn as well. And again, we're talking about the character building of the movie. So by the time Tony gets there, it's really like, I love the way they set it up because they didn't, just because they had the fight and just because they lost doesn't mean that our issues are resolved automatically when we get back to Earth.
Right.
So then we take it back to the clip that they released online with Captain Marvel and the gang, and they're talking, this is when Thor holds the hammer.
Let's go get Thanos.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was funny, and I said this when we were at the movie theater. I said, it's interesting that the trailer is only the first scene.
Listen, a lot of what you see.
The trailer is just the first
scene.
A
lot of what you see in those trailers are not what's there.
Yeah, it's just the first scene. You
the
don't
first
see anything
15
else.
minutes.
So it's like, okay, it's. I like the way I wish more movies would do that instead of showing you the whole movie.
Yeah.
But with seeing that, you thought that you were getting a gist of a hold on what the movie was actually about. We all know that everybody's trying to get Thanos. But we knew that they were going to go and do this thing together.
Listen.
And they were going to be a team, and they were walking through
I'm glad we're doing a spoiler talk because let's just keep it real. Everything you saw in the trailers, they accomplished in the first 15 minutes in the movie.
So you knew you had another 2 hours and 45 minutes
of
figure out
what is going to happen now. Because here's the thing, and I wish I'll probably clip this out and I'll show it. All right, because when we had our discussion about the Endgame trailer, all right, and everybody was going to, only takes a couple months for people's hair to grow and change. And I said something about Black Widow's hair. It was longer. It was going back to red, but she never took her blonde dye out. And I saw the area where Scott Lang went back to his neighborhood, and it was, the earth kind of taking itself back. And I said, I'm telling you, a few years have passed since and the first thing they do, they go to, Nebula knows where Thanos is. They go there. They find Thanos. They kill that dude. Find out that the stones are destroyed.
He done destroyed the stones.
And then everybody's like, what the heck? And
so I was like, yo, all right, let's go. End of the movie.
And then they fades to black and it says, 5 years later. And when I saw that,
I was like, are you serious?
I was like, whoa. So they gone. They gone. Like,
they didn't just go and come back 20 days later as the movie started. No, they weren't there.
They's gone. Like,
and what was interesting, never mind, I'll get to it at the end.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man had mentioned some stuff he mentioned some stuff, and it was interesting that he did that for the time lapse.
But they was gone.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. The Avengers accepted loss. They
didn't accept it well though, because when it comes back on 5 years later, we see Cap in a support group.
Yeah.
So
but he was running the support group.
He was running the support group, but
he was helping people move on.
Natasha didn't take it well. Natasha, they had a virtual meeting with the with remaining Avengers of what was going on in the galaxy and where they were, and Nat was the head. And when they left, she was breaking down. She still couldn't believe that everybody was gone.
I mean, well, here's the thing. There was a sense of purpose. A lot of these people have a sense of purpose, and when that sense of purpose is not there, they don't know what to do. So you got Black Widow, who is, she's conducting the meetings the same way Fury was doing with the World Security Council, all right? And, it was, everybody was checking in, and, they were there's no more authorities left. The governments have been halfway snapped, and the people in power are not in power anymore, and so
they have one guy that's just going around killing hordes of people at a time.
right, and so they need to police the world, because that's what's going on. So that she got different people in different sects of the world, and then you have Captain Marvel, who is doing her cleanup on the galaxy end, and they're all checking in with Black Widow. So Black Widow ends up becoming the head of the Avengers at that moment, to see what's going on and how it's going on and all that good stuff. But the thing is, that last report was from Rhodey, and Hawkeye done snapped.
He done went and he didn't snap. He had become a vigilante.
Oh, no. He snapped. Because what he started to do, he became more than a vigilante. A vigilante cleans up. A vigilante basically works outside of the law, but there is no law. And basically what he did was, he had a mission that if half the people had died, I'm going to kill every mobster, every mafia, every yakuza, any of them lived, they're dead. I'm dead. So he went down to Mexico, started killing the cartel. He went to Japan, started killing the yakuza. He snapped. All right, and when you saw Hawkeye, and he was Ronin.
He was Ronin. Yeah, but at this time he's Ronin.
He's Ronin. We ain't seen him like this in any Avengers ever.
Yeah. No.
Any Avengers ever. This dude was a stone cold murderer. Like, it was crazy. And that is what broke Natasha down. It wasn't the fact that they're dealing, because everybody has found a way to deal with their loss. 5 years they dealt with loss.
It's 5 years, but she said before this, I didn't have anything.
Right.
I didn't have. She was a nomad. She
wasn't a nomad. She
wasn't a nomad. She had a purpose, but she was a
she was a spy.
She
was a spy.
And so that she didn't have to stay in one place for a very long period of
because
time.
Governments were in place. There was no police in the world. So
but I also think that made her, because now I have to sit here. I have to think about everything.
Yeah.
And she still couldn't believe. I still think that she couldn't believe that all of this had happened.
Well, she can believe. I think she can believe it. But the thing is everybody was finding a way to deal with Everybody's finding a way to deal with the loss. Grief. And it's like again, it wasn't 23 days. Okay, all right, let's figure out how to do this. They killed Thanos.
Yeah.
Thanos is gone.
Yeah, so now
5 years later, and it's like he destroyed the stones. There is no way to undo what's going on. They're done.
There's no way to bring him back. There's no way to bring everybody else back, because the stones are gone.
So now it's like, how do we move on? How do we get back to a normal way of life, in which that's what they're trying to do? But there's still people out there that need, the force of the Avengers, so to speak. And we're at this point, we're not even talking about the Avengers. We're just talking about different people in different sections of the world that are able to do what it is that they can do to keep the world from being in chaos.
Right.
But then you have, and this is, if I have one knock against this movie, it was the way that Ant-Man came back.
Yeah.
I was expecting, I wanted to see Captain Marvel go into the quantum realm and find Ant-Man, or he figure out how to get himself out of, and it didn't happen like that. It happened by accident. And it was like, they put his van with the with the quantum portal that in it was in storage, and then some rat goes ahead and activates the thing by accident and shoots him out the thing. If that's the only knock that I have against the movie, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, that might be. I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem, like you said. We were hearing that it was slow in pacing, and I didn't think that it was slow. I think that it was very well set up, because we had to have everything had to be set up. It was a lot of information, a lot of important information.
Right.
So that you knew how things were going to be done.
Right.
And because everybody was everywhere, everybody wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page.
Now all the pre reviews that came out before release, and people, the non-spoiler reviews, and everybody was like, "Oh man, I cried like 5 or 6 times." This movie will have you crying about 5 or 6 times.
It will.
I personally, I don't have that trigger in my brain to do it, but I definitely felt when he went and when Scott Lang started searching for his daughter. He didn't even look for her family. He looking for her daughter.
And found his own name on it.
And found his own name on there.
Can you imagine looking and thinking, "Yo, they think I'm dead"?
Yeah, but he understood it.
Yeah,
he understood it. But the thing is, he went to find his daughter, and his daughter's grown up, and that's, it was a good thing. And, his daughter recognized him right away, and she recognized.
I was very happy about that. I was really happy
and
about
that was a real heartwarming feeling. Then they cut to Tony Stark, who is living the simple life on a lake and nice house, and he and Pepper had Morgan. And Morgan.
And you're happy to see it because that's something that Tony always wanted. He just never had the time. And now that they had 5 years to do nothing, he has the time.
Well, see, here's the thing. And you have to talk about this movie having stakes. This slow period of the movie set up all the stakes.
Yeah.
And because now, if you look at it, the best thing that happened to Tony Stark was that snap. Mm-hmm. Because he was able to get his wife, he was able to have a kid, he was able to live the simple life, and
it was beneficial for him.
All he had to do was live,
yeah.
And that's it. He distanced himself from the rest of the Avengers. So when they went to go kill Thanos, Tony didn't go with them. When they came back, he went
like, I'm not going. I'm good where I am. I'm happy that I have my life. I'm okay with where I am right now.
Right.
Although, if you know Tony Stark, you cannot, and he reminds me a lot of him, because you cannot give a suggestion and just leave. Because that suggestion is going to fester.
Right.
It's going to start building wings. It's going to start building roots. It's going to start building...
Well, basically, if there's a problem that needs to be solved, if I have to be the one to solve it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even...
Tony Stark.
It wasn't even him saying, I have to be the one to solve it. It was more or less him saying...
I wonder if it really
They came to me with a problem. I'm going to try to solve it. But now, for my own sake, I need to solve it. Not for selfish reasons because he had every reason to not do it.
Yeah. And he said it. He told Pepper, he said, I figured it out, but now I just want to go box it up and throw it in the river.
Right. And so you have that because we're doing a play-by-play and this thing's going to take forever. We don't have to do a play-by-play. But going forward into the movie now, so now they're trying, Tony says no to the team. They come in, they ask him for his help. He says no. They try to figure it out. Go through a couple funny sequences of them trying to figure out time travel, and they couldn't do it. Tony comes in and says, "Okay, guys, I can do it, but here's my stipulations." And basically he loves the life that he has post snap. He doesn't want to lose it, but what we all want is just to bring everybody back. So they figure out a way to do it, and I just think that I think that setup and that through point was just awesome because that 5-year gap, everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to do it and how they're going to, and just you go and see about everybody's lives, but then we got one last person once they figure out that, okay, we can do it, but we actually need a team. And we don't have a team.
Oh, yeah.
And I also like how freely the guardianship can just come in and out of space, and there's they
were very open to they traveled like it was nothing like, okay, we're going back to Earth now. We'll be there for a couple of days and then we're gonna go back to another galaxy.
Yeah, and that's
no problem. No permissions, no nothing.
It's funny. But then they go see Thor, who set up...
Oh, no. Don't get to Thor yet.
Okay.
Because you got the Hulk.
They go get the Hulk. Yes. And
because after Tony said no, the only other person they can figure out that can possibly help with this, because of the things that they've worked on in the past, was the Hulk.
And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are knowledgeable about the comics, we finally got Professor Hulk.
Yes, and it's so funny to see this big green David Banner. Because it wasn't
wasn't
this
even
big
a
green
Hulk, right?
It was the big green David Banner.
Not David Banner, Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. I'm sorry, David Banner's the rapper.
Yeah.
Bruce Banner.
Yes.
And it's hilarious because he's so not the Hulk.
No, he and Hulk had finally figured out his issues, figure out their issues,
Yes.
rather. They learn how to live cohesively as one. Hulk is now a superstar.
Yes.
All right. And you got kids asking for selfies and everything like that. And, you know, so they go and they help him, try to, he's trying to help him. Right. He can't do it because he doesn't know, but he just tries what he can to, you know, to get to further the plan. But they need muscle. So they go to Hulk. I mean, they go to Thor. And Thor,
who has
in a post-snap Earth,
who has now have a little town called
New Asgardian, with all the New Asgard.
New Asgard.
With all of the Asgardians who survived,
right,
are now living on Earth. And
hilarious.
Yeah, that's
hilarious.
It was hilarious. Now, Thor is completely out of shape. He let himself go. And again, this is part of that whole deal with how do you deal with the fact that you lost? Yeah. And with Thor, probably the one who lost the most in this, I know that Peter Parker hit Tony Stark hard, but now you're talking about Thor, who lost his mother, his father, his sister, his whole entire planet, and half of his civilization.
To Thanos.
No, not to Thanos. He lost it to Hela.
Well, he lost part of that to Hela.
Yeah,
and the other part.
Ragnarok happened, but then
Thor.
What was left, and they were on that ship. Thanos came in the beginning of Infinity War and decimated half of them. Valkyrie was on a mission, probably to go scope out a place to live on Earth, and that happened. Right. So now Thor is just like, he's really just giving up on life, and it's kind of a sad sight to see.
It really is, because, you know, ladies, we're used to seeing Thor.
Oh, no, you didn't see that.
You didn't see that.
Chris Hemsworth's probably been the least attractive that he's ever been in almost any movie he's been into, and especially after seeing the Men in Black trailers right before it, and then you go and see him like this, and you see the beer kegs, the wine, but we still get Meek and what's the Rock dude name? Court?
I think it's Court.
But we get to see them. They're still alive. Thanos didn't out those, nor did they get snapped. And they're sitting there playing Fortnite, and you know, Thor is threatening the little kids. It was a real funny thing, but it was still sad to see, because that's how much he has given up on life. Yeah. And the only way that they can get him back on the ship was saying, we got beer on the ship.
We got beer on the ship.
Yeah, it was. So, you know, let's go further, because we don't want to do them. But I like how they set up the stakes. Now, you know, this is what everybody's doing now, but now we have an idea that we can go, and this is stuff that we haven't seen in the trailers now. Right. So, you know, we saw the suits, we saw the quantum suits and everything like that, but how they came into play we never thought we would see that, and a lot of stuff that they showed in those trailers weren't there. But I really like how during this portion of the pacing, once they got going, they got going. Yeah. So now it's, okay, we tested it, let's go get these things. And this is where all of your knowledge of the MCU comes into play, and you see a whole lot of things. But not also that, this is where you see the growth of the characters as people come into play when they start going back in time. Because there's a few scenes that are getting emulated. They're going back to Avengers 2012 in New York, because they figured out that, hey, listen, if we pick the right year, we have the Mind Stone, the Tesseract, and the there was 3 stones, the Time Stone.
No.
Yeah. Mind Stone, Tesseract, and Time Stone.
Time Stone is the one that
Time Stone was in the Sanctum.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, Time Stone was in Sanctum. The Tesseract was on Avengers Tower, which is Stark Tower, and then the Mind Stone was in Loki's Scepter the entire time.
Right.
So
all of those were in New York all at once.
All at once at one time during the Avengers. So they go there. Then you have that's 3 of them. So now you have another team going to go get the Power Stone, which is, and we saw that introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we have the Soul Stone back on Vormir, and then we have the Ether on Asgard. And so everybody has to go back to their certain times to go get it, and so you go through a little trip through the MCU, but you see it from different angles. Now this was interesting because now I'm sitting there thinking that, okay, they showed the epic, the circle Avengers shot, but now we're looking at that same shot from a different angle. So now I'm sitting there like this. Did they actually shoot these angles and then say, hey, do we have old footage of this that we can just green screen these guys in?
I would think so, but then I would think not. Well, yeah, because you didn't see both of those in the same. You saw them looking at them at a far off, at a distance. So they were never in close proximity with, except for a couple parts where they actually.
Oh yeah, because they had the Captain America versus Captain America fight. You had the emulation of the Winter Soldier elevator thing, and they had the same strike team come in with Sitwell, and they had the thing, and Captain America he just thought about it. He was like, okay, listen, I can either have this fight again, or I can lean over to Sitwell and I can say, Hell Hydra. That was like, listen, the theater went crazy at that point. It was funny. Ridiculous fan service, but it was fan service in the right way, because if you remember the movies, you got where they were going. But that Cap fight was really good when you see Shield against Shield, and they were,
I think for this to be as much TV as we watch, for this to be a season
series
finale.
Well, yeah.
This was one of the best season finales I've seen, because you know how when you have that last episode of the season, they go back and they show highlights of the previous seasons and all of that, and you actually get to see this, and it made me understand, okay, I get why this is 3 hours long.
Right.
I get it, because they wanted to put everything in this to make it a finale.
You have to, because you can't, you can't really do, if you're going to say this is the end, you have to make it as epic as possible. Right. And they chose to do, they didn't go and redo the Battle of New York. They sat there, they let everything play out. They let the battle play out the way it was supposed to play it out. They didn't try to go and try to change history. They just needed the stones.
And they were told, do not go and change anything, because if you change something, it might impact what's now. The thing is, Tony Stark ran into his dad. Captain America ran into, well, he didn't run into,
but he saw Peggy.
Yeah. So, and the Hulk saw, what was the chick from the Sanctum?
She saw the Sorcerer Supreme, Tilda Swinton.
Right. So, although I'm not supposed to, now I got to think of something really quick to not give myself away.
Right.
Because I can ultimately alter.
The mission was the stones, and that's it.
Go
back and get the stones before Thanos gets them, and that we can use them. But then, I like where the twist came in, and it wasn't an obvious twist.
Right.
It was, I think that nobody thought that this could happen, but it was Nebula that didn't turn against them. But it was the fact that they were on the same neural network, and when they were on the same timeline, all of her cybernetics started working in sync, and that was like crazy. And that's where
I think that was an amazing twist, because I would have never in a million years thought that it would have been her.
Because I thought it was just going to be, they were going to have to fight to get the stones, and then after they fight to get the stones, then maybe they undid something the wrong way.
Yeah.
And, you only have a limited number of snaps, as we saw, in the last movie, that what happened when he snapped his fingers, that thing just like it mangled his whole. Whoever uses them, they got to pay that price.
Right.
But then we got to the Soul Stone. Man, this is one of those moments where a lot of people were crying in the theater.
Because if you've seen the original, if you've seen Infinity War, you knew that in order to get the Soul Stone, you have to give up. It's a soul for a soul.
Right.
So
but it's not just a soul for a soul. You have to love.
Well, the thing is, you have to give up what you love the most. So it's that person that you love the most. It's a soul for a soul.
Yeah.
And Thanos gave up Gamora. And that's why he took her with him.
Yeah.
For that reason. So now we have Nat and Hawkeye standing at the top of
Oh man. And this was crazy because now we're not talking about, I love you, but you gotta go. No, this is like, I love you. Tell everybody I love them.
Yeah.
And I'll go.
I'll sacrifice.
Yeah. And the thing is, and what I had said before about when we did Infinity War, what I've been telling everybody, anybody who has died because of the snap were able to be brought back. Right. Anybody who died before the snap wasn't coming back. And dang it, this is one of them times where I was right.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, okay, well, why don't you just get the stones? And then boom, and Bruce said, I tried to bring her back.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't work because as long as that soul stone is in somebody's possession, whoever died to produce it, they're not coming back. Which means that Gamora not coming back.
No,
and she's gone. And that's like, wow. But we did see 2014 Gamora.
Right.
Who, always had that good in her.
Right.
And, and when they had that whole reunion, it just didn't work out for Star-Lord. And that was like...
It didn't.
It was one of those sad occasions, and it was... but Nebula said, your choices were him and a tree.
Yeah. Go figure.
Go figure. So, there's a lot to unpack with this movie because it was 3 hours of... it was really epic. I mean, you had the battles.
Very good storytelling.
You had to go back, and now they went back to a period which we've never seen before, which is 1970.
Yes.
And now we're talking. See, they had you guessing,
but we didn't see it in that capacity.
They had you guessing in this movie because they figured they're gonna pair Tony and Steve up together, all right, and now one of those two are gonna die, and what ended up happening was Tony ended up having that, remember the experiment from Civil War with the glasses, and they say, if I had a chance to talk to him again. Yeah. Well, he had his chance to talk to his father again, and you saw right back to Winter Soldier, the barracks where they had the secret base and everything like that, and that shout out to Octavia Spencer for getting in the Marvel film.
Yes.
She had a nice little piece in there, small, brief, but it was a nice little piece. Yes.
She was in there.
She played the part that she always plays, which I'm kind of upset about, but she was in there. Congratulations, Octavia Spencer. But yeah, he had that moment, and it was like you saw the real Howard Stark.
Yeah.
In that moment, and not the Howard Stark that Tony remembers. And it was like literally right before Tony was born.
Right.
Like, Tony was like on the verge of being born, and he's sitting there talking to his father on the day that he's supposed to be born. And that was a heartwarming moment. And it was like Tony got to tie up all of his ends in this joint.
I didn't look at it that way. I look at it now and be like, oh yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
Because I just really wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, but you weren't expecting it. But when it happened, you was like, oh man, like I'm getting worried now. Like I'm getting worried. So now we get all the stones back, but the twist is Nebula is now with...
Now we have two Nebulas.
We have two Nebulas, but the Nebula that was the Nebula we first met in Guardians of the Galaxy, that's the Nebula that came
here,
back.
Not the changed Nebula.
She brought Thanos and his whole army here when they got the stones, they figured out how to create an Infinity Gauntlet.
And they snapped, and then the fighting started.
Yes.
They snapped, and then the fighting started, and I was like, well, where is everybody?
Well, see, here's the thing about this now. They wanted to make sure that the snap was done right.
Right.
And there was a little bit of skirmish on who gets the snap because
Right.
Thor wanted to, Thor had his thing, but then, they was like, wait, nope, Thor, let's just talk about this. And, ended up being the Hulk.
Because of his size and the gamma rays, he would be able, size-wise.
Right. Well, no, it was the fact that the radiation.
Yeah, the radiation
was
and his
gamma.
And size-wise, he would have been able to, he was the only Avenger who would be able to take that.
Right.
And so, especially how big Thanos was and all of that, he was able to do it. So, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And he snapped and we saw Hawkeye's phone ring.
Yep.
It was his wife.
So we knew
it worked.
Some people were back. We knew it worked.
Oh, it worked.
It worked. We had birds coming in. We knew it was coming in, but as soon as we saw the birds.
And I love the fact that they brought the emotional stakes back where, okay, but then in a minute where you thought that they had it, it's like, oh, don't forget, that's not the Nebula y'all left with.
Right.
All of a sudden, she brings back the Sanctuary, and the Sanctuary comes through and just decimates.
Yes.
Completely obliterates Avengers
Tower,
HQ.
yeah.
And now we have a war, but here's the best, this is the thing. We get a no stones Thanos fight against a fully equipped Iron Man, Captain America, and a Thor. All right, and this was like the comic book kid in me. All right, this was
the epic battle.
It was everything.
This
was probably the moment that I probably would have cried for because this was everything. This battle between Tony, it was Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor versus fully armored Thanos.
Yes.
And man, did that fight deliver.
Yes, it did. It really did.
That fight delivered
on. I like the fact that they completed all of the fights. I hate watching movies and you have people fighting and one just whips on the other one when you know that they're both capable of beating each other to a pulp.
But what we saw in Infinity War, all right, Thanos, without using the stones, whipped Captain America with nothing but Captain America had a shield.
Yeah.
His mighty shield.
This one was, they actually had a battle.
Man, they went in.
This was WrestleMania.
Yeah.
This was WrestleMania worthy fight.
This was
right
Rock
here.
and Austin WrestleMania 19. This was it. But then when it looks like Thanos had the upper hand and he's getting ready to kill no, but wait. Let's talk about this real quick. Thanos was able to wield Stormbreaker.
Yes.
Now we all know that when Thor has his weapons, all right, nothing's stopping him from. Man, he called Stormbreaker back, and then Thor was like, I got this one, and then tried to kill Thor the same way that Thor killed Thanos, or same way that Thor tried to kill Thanos in Infinity War, and then it happened. The magic happened.
I think I heard the loudest uproar.
The loudest uproar. Like, this is why you need to go, listen.
Oh my goodness. It was amazing.
We're already talking to the people who already went to go see it. So I don't know how your theater went. All right. But our theater was up. I mean, you would have thought we were watching the actual fight.
Yes.
When that hammer started to move and it went into Captain America's hands.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was pandemonium. Everybody was screaming and clapping and everything. I was like, that's what's up.
This is straight out the comics, all right? He started calling the thunder, the lightning down, and then we had a real fight. But Thanos was Thanos.
Yeah.
Thanos was ruthless. And the thing was, again, now we're seeing the difference between, as we were seeing the growth from our heroes from when they went back in time to where, they originally had certain events. Now we're seeing the growth of Thanos knowing what his future is.
Right.
All right. And knowing that.
Because he knows in all of this, he's going to die.
But he has a plan to rectify that
Right.
because now Thanos has a new resolve.
Right.
And it was like, okay, so I was being generous by just, snapping half of the people.
But
so
now I know that's not going to work.
That's not going to work because as long as you remember what happened and you can try to find a resolve to try to fix what happened, man, I'm just going to wipe the whole universe clean. And then we're going to start over from scratch. So now, because I remember from Infinity War, people was like, man, Thanos was ruthless. Thanos didn't care. It wasn't about saving the thing.
He did.
Listen, you also have to remember that in Infinity War, Thanos lost a lot.
Yeah.
Thanos didn't lose anything in this. So because he still had the Black Order, all right, the Black Order is back. He still got Gamora. He still got Nebula. He still got his entire army. He hasn't suffered any loss in that particular manner. So now his resolve is completely different. He's not operating in remorse now. This is not, this day is struck. No, this is the one-note villain.
Right.
That
this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to do it, and you don't have to worry about fixing your future. I'll fix it for you.
Exactly.
I'll fix it for you. Don't worry about it.
And at that point, he became a more dangerous person because he didn't care who lived. He didn't care about respect. He didn't care about who lived or who died. In the last one, he had respect. You know what I'm saying? Right. But that Thanos is dead. That Thanos got his head chopped off. Yeah. This is a whole different one. And then he calls down his army and it's like, yo, y'all done. Like, and he was like, normally I do this and it's not personal, but this one, I'm going to enjoy this. And then, oh my God, the floodgates happened. The snap actually worked. You see a whole bunch of sling rings open up.
All of the
Black Panther, Okoye, and Shuri come in.
You had the Avengers that you didn't know was there.
And then
everybody.
And let's just talk about the debut of Rescue. All right.
Yes.
Pepper Potts came in. She's got her rescue armor on.
Well, at the beginning, it's mentioned because Morgan had on the helmet. And Tony was like, yeah, she never wears anything. I buys her anyway. So, and that's it. That's all you hear about the suit. That's all you hear about Pepper putting on anything. And then you see her.
And this was this was an awesome moment because you saw just about every non-dead superhero come back. Spider-Man came back. Yes. You had
Wasp, and I think a lot of people were happy to see Wasp there.
Yeah.
A lot of people were happy to see.
Well, it was everything because it wasn't just Wong showed back up, but it wasn't just Wong who showed back up. It was the whole school, right?
The whole order was there. Wow.
You had the Valkyries.
It was funny because he was like, you had to bring them on. He was like, that's not enough. You wanted everybody. So why couldn't I just bring everybody?
Right.
But they needed it looking at what they were going up against.
They brought all of Wakanda. They brought all the sorcery students. They brought all the Valkyries.
Yep.
They brought everybody. The Asgardians came. Everybody who was snapped came back. And they ready to go. And you have the battle of all battles. Yes. This wasn't the Wakanda / Phantom Menace battle. No. This was good
against evil.
It was straight good against evil, and it was epic. It was kind of epic in the way that Ready Player One battle was epic, but it was a lot more meaningful, and a lot of people got their shine. Shuri got her shine in. Okoye got her shine. She got a couple of key kills in that. And then Spider-Man activated instant kill mode, and everybody lost it.
Yes.
And
there's a couple of moments in that movie there where people did that, where our audience was just like,
right.
The Stan Lee cameo.
I missed that. Oh, that was in the 1970s, right? Yeah, okay, right.
He was in the car driving, and he came up. So there was a lot of different moments where our crowd was just like going ham, and it was a good thing because it was good that they were cheering on good.
Right.
It was a great thing to hear because we want them to win. We know that they're going to win, and how they did it was amazing.
Well, of course you want them to win because they snapped your favorite superheroes last time. They killed them.
Yes, they did.
But let's talk about Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel in this movie was used sparingly.
Yes.
When she was used well, but she wasn't in the entire movie. I thought that was a good move because being that you just came off of her solo movie, this was more of the original Avengers movie. Yeah. She was more of the hired muscle of the movie. I kind of like that, but when she came in, she came in with impact. Like whenever she was on screen, she was
there, yeah,
with impact. And when that happened, when she came in and that happened, now we're fighting over the glove because the glove has already been used once to bring everybody back.
Right.
But Thanos wants the glove and he wants to kind of just undo everything.
Right.
But
and
then
I like that part because at that moment all the women stepped up.
All
the women superheroes.
Peter Parker was like, okay, listen, I need help.
And I don't know how you're going to get this over there. And all the women was like, yo, we got this. We got this. So, I mean, it was great. Honestly, it was great to see because you've seen them move in the different movies, in their own individual movies or in another movie. But to see them all together, working together for this.
And a lot of it is, this wasn't like some new age type of thing. This wasn't like the agenda push. And I know we mentioned that a lot of times on this. But this was actually true blue. These are comic book characters that have existed for years.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, let's get them. Boom. Let's have each other's back. All right. And let's go for it. And when they went for it, they went for it. Yes. The Captain Marvel Thanos fight was like my third favorite fight in the movie. But I like it because Thanos still won.
Yes,
and,
he did.
And
yes,
I like the fact that Thanos still won that fight because what they didn't do with Captain Marvel, they didn't make her so overpowered that she was never presented with a challenge.
Yeah, that there was
because
no weakness.
Right. I mean, she took out the sanctuary.
Right.
We saw that. Like, yeah, she came in and they started raining down the guns. No matter who got hit, they was just hitting everybody. She came in, she took out the sanctuary. Yep. But then when it came down to Thanos, like, she took it to Thanos. I'm not gonna say she
did, but he brought it right back.
But Thanos is smart and methodic, and he knows. So there's a difference between fighting like a Mike Tyson versus fighting a Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali knew how to fight and when to fight.
Between a boxer and a scrapper.
And he was a more intelligent fighter rather than Mike Tyson, who was just a brawler. It was like, I'm just gonna come in and knock you out.
Right.
So Thanos came in, and when he couldn't use the gauntlet. So what did he do? He took a stone out of the gauntlet, used the stone, and punted Captain Marvel halfway across the battlefield. And I was like, oh, and the whole crowd was like,
got quiet, like,
oh,
was that our one? Was that our chance? Was that it?
But that was it. Everybody thought that was it. And Thanos was trying to snap so many times, and when he had all 6 stones and he got prevented from snapping, but then again, it came down to not who can do the most damage, but who was the smartest. Yeah. And this is what I like about the writing of the Russo brothers. They always write smart movies. Winter Soldier was a smart movie. Yes, Civil War was a smart movie. Infinity War was a smart movie. This one was no exception. The part that I like is that you didn't see it. It was a sleight of hand.
Right.
All right. And Tony went after Thanos. Tony can't beat Thanos on his own. No. He can't beat him as Iron Man. But what Tony did was he snatched those stones right off that glint. So when he snapped, it was like, what happened? What? Oh, snap.
Yeah,
like, he didn't even look at it right.
There's nothing there.
And then comes the heartbreaking part. Yes. The part that had you welling up with tears.
Yes, because everybody know how I feel about Tony Stark.
Yeah, and those 3 words, I am Iron Man. It's the 3 words that kicked the MCU off, and it was the 3 words that ended the Infinity Saga.
Yes.
And he snapped, killing Thanos entire army,
Yes.
and in the process killing himself.
Yeah. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That was heartbreaking because it the trailer
Uh,
for, I think the first trailer went back to each of their origins.
right.
And so it sort of, when that happened, you sort of thought about where it all started with Iron Man. And it's like, wow, it started with him and now it ends with him.
And that's
so that to me, that's where, and you could hear the whole auditorium sniffing and snickering, and it was like everybody was like,
yeah.
it was. And then especially when Spider-Man went up to him and everybody was like, yo, just move him, because everybody gonna start crying if he comes, everybody's gonna start crying.
But we missed a key moment in that thing where Spider-Man, because just the part where you said that he said some things that was very integral to the thing. So we missed that part where Spider-Man on the battlefield, Spider-Man's coming and
when they first see each other,
and
for the first time.
he saves Tony from a certain attack.
Right.
And then there, he's trying to explain to him. Now, what was your part there?
Mr. Stark, you're not gonna believe this. I was gone. I don't know what happened. When we turned to dust, and I must have passed out or something. And because through the whole movie, you're trying to figure out what happened in these 5 years to the other people.
Right.
So in that short time, he explained exactly what happened.
Right.
In those 5 years, he said once he came back, Doctor Strange was there and said, it's been 5 years, we gotta go. And he was like, wait a minute, it's been 5 years. So he really thought that he passed out, that it was like he was just asleep and he just came back.
He said, when I got all dusty. And
I got all dusty and
but
stuff.
in the middle of that explanation, Tony just went and he gave Peter the biggest hug.
Yeah.
And now we have to go back to Spider-Man Homecoming, where, Peter really looks up to Tony Stark, like as that father figure that he never had. And Tony goes and he thought he was giving him a hug, and he was like, oh, I'm not hugging you. I'm just opening the door for you. We're not there yet.
Right.
And that, if you remember that moment to the point where he said, when he gave him that big hug, when he says, no, I'm not hugging you, we're not there yet. And then every time he would talk to Peter, it would be under disciplinary terms. And then he just gives him that big embrace because, again, that's something that he never got from his father.
And I was about to say, I think after seeing his father, and hearing his father talk to him.
Because he did the same thing to his father.
Yeah, and hearing his father talk to him when his father said, as of right now, I would do anything for him.
Right.
That struck a nerve.
Right.
Because like you said, back in Winter Soldier, what he portrays to us of his father is not that person we saw.
Right.
So for him to see that and like, yo, I really, this
Civil War, not Winter Soldier.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It wasn't Winter
It's
Soldier.
Civil War, yeah.
He was like, this is not the same person that I remembered.
Right.
So now he's looking at Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, like, yo, this is the person that I want to be.
Right.
If I'm going to present a person, this is the type of father figure I want to be to him.
Yeah.
So that hug meant a lot.
Right. It meant a lot to Tony.
Yes.
More than it meant to Peter, but it was just like, that's a moment that you just knew he about to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those moments where you just knew he about to die because like I said, Tony tied up a lot of ends.
Yes.
All right. He ended up fulfilling the prophecy that he gave to Pepper about having Morgan. They got married. They had a life of 5 years. He didn't want that ruined by doing this. He met his father. He got a chance to have that last conversation with his father. And what was it about? It was about fatherhood. He saw Peter. He got that hug with Peter. He made amends with Steve. And basically he kind of just like righted the wrongs of his life to this moment. And the thing was that Doctor Strange told him that if I tell you how this ends, it won't happen because
Tony's gonna try everything in his power not to let it end that way.
Right.
And it's true. It's true.
And so the thing was, Tony didn't know that he was going to die, but
Right.
he just, was, okay, Banner do it. I got the suit. Well, I can do it. And boom. But at that point, it was what his father said, that if I had a daughter, she won't end up like me. He was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, the greater good is always going to come before your personal whatever.
Right.
Basically, that Tony, no matter how selfish Tony perceives himself to be, the greater good is always going to come. Is always going to come first.
Just think of his ideas that he's had.
Yeah.
When it came to building the shell around the earth, it was for the greater good.
Right.
The conflicts that him and Steve had.
Right.
They were for the greater good.
Right.
It was just a bigger picture. Remember in one of the Iron Man movies, at the beginning, the lady came up and it was the soldier. The soldier's mother. Or was it? Yeah, it was the soldier's mother from Wachovia. Not Wachovia.
No, you're talking about Civil War, where Alfred Woodard came in,
Yes.
and it was her son was an intern. He went on a mission trip to Sokovia.
Yes.
And then they dropped the building on him.
And that hurt him so much.
But he was dealing with guilt then.
Yeah, well, and in that he's like, okay, I need to find a way that we can fix this.
But he was trying to do that since Age of Ultron, which was a few movies before, where
that stuck out in my head with the young
because
boy.
We're going back to the conversation where Tony and Steve were chopping the wood.
Yes.
And he was like, he said, well, isn't that this is where the Endgame popped up. That's where it was first mentioned. The Endgame was first mentioned when he said that. He said, "I wanted to do this, and isn't this the mission?" He said, "Isn't this the mission? Is to go home, to go home, so we don't have to, so we can rest, and we don't have to sit here and do all this fighting."
Right.
And then Captain America says that every time somebody tries to end the war before it happens, innocent people get hurt every time.
Right.
And so that's where that came in, because the Endgame was mentioned first in Age of Ultron, and before Doctor Strange said we're in the Endgame now, that's where Endgame came from. So Tony still ended up bringing the Endgame,
right,
which was ultimately snapping the Infinity Stones, sacrificing himself to end this war, to end this saga, and he gets a hero send-off. But now we're talking...
And what did I say?
Huh?
It's official. Jon Snow dies.
Oh, hush. We still got to deal with the Battle of Winterfell later this week. All right.
If Jon Stark can die, so can he.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark can die.
Listen, we not there yet. Okay, let's deal with one thing at a time. So with that, Cap is going to go on a solo mission to bring back all the stones in our time. Right.
Exactly.
If they don't get returned back to where they were supposed to be, a rift in the continuum will happen, and then that will set up a whole chain of events that just shouldn't.
Different problems that we don't want to have.
That we don't want to have. But he does it, but he doesn't come back.
He comes back.
No, he doesn't come back, because Banner said, to us, it's to him, it's as long as he needs to do it. But for us, it's 5 seconds. So he goes in, and he sends them off, and then when he tries to bring them back, he doesn't come back. And basically, he took off the suit, he took off the PEM particles, and he went and he found Peggy.
Yep.
Now, here's my thing. When you go watch, I want to say it's Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Not Civil War. If you go back and watch Winter Soldier, Peggy gets married to somebody, and I think it was one of the Howling Commandos that he got married. That she got married to, so he had to go back before he got married. Before she got married, and he went off and married her.
Yeah.
So now we're talking. No Captain America that entire time.
So wouldn't that cause a rift?
Huh?
Wouldn't that cause a rift?
Well, as we learned, the laws of time travel does not work the way we saw in other movies, which they gave off. Listen,
Yes.
they gave off a list, and I mean probably almost every time travel movie that you can think
They
of
didn't
in the
mention
last.
Time Bandits.
Huh?
They didn't mention Time Bandits.
It probably wasn't worth mentioning. But they went from Time Cop, Coming to America, Hot Tub Time Machine,
Yes.
a whole bunch of other time traveling movies that they reference about the laws of time travel, and they
And
said,
mentioned
listen,
Back to the Future a couple times.
changing the timeline in the past changes that future. It doesn't change the future that's
right.
already happened here.
Right.
So it basically creates another alternative universe, which I don't think I entirely agree with.
Me either.
Because if he went back and married Peggy before Peggy got married to somebody else, then that probably starts off a whole nother chain of stuff. If he stays in that thing and never becomes Captain America again, then we don't know if he became Captain America again in those years.
Right.
But that sets off a whole chain. How did New York get one? How did the Civil War would have never happened if New York never got one? Then the Tesseract and all these other things. So it's kind of garbled a little bit. I'm not sure if I like the logic of the time travel in this one, but I accept it for what it is because that's how they wrote it. We don't know how time travel actually works, but if it works in that certain way, especially when you're dealing with science fiction, oh well, that's how it is. But nonetheless, he still has the super serum in him. He doesn't age normally. He comes back alive, but he knew where to be at what time, and the mantle of Captain America gets switched not to Bucky, but to Sam. And Sam is now the new Captain America.
Yeah, and I think if anything, I would have liked something different for an ending.
No, I'm cool with that.
I think I would have liked something a little different from the.
I'm cool with that. The only thing that I wanted to happen was when they pushed off the thing for Tony, for Hawkeye to do the whole the King Arthur thing, and
the fire.
Yeah. I wanted that to happen, but it didn't happen. But with that particular ending, I kind of liked it because it was, I'm done. I went and I lived my life. No more wars, no more fighting supernatural and terrestrial beings and all this other stuff. The Guardians, they go off on their thing, so we already know that part of the movie is they're going to be looking for Gamora. Right. And Thor is now with the Guardians, so you're going to get a little bit of thing there. So the MCU is not done by any stretch. Captain Marvel will get her own new movie. Of course, we see that Spider-Man's coming out. Right. Nick Fury is back. I mean, everybody who was snapped is back.
I didn't see Vision.
Vision wasn't snapped. Vision, he had to kill Vision to take the Mind Stone, and like I
wasn't sure, and I think I thought that, but I was like,
well, Hawkeye and Wanda had that talk at the lake, right. And he was like, well, I want her to know that we won, and he's like, I think they both do. Okay. You thought she was talking about her brother. Yeah. She was talking about Vision. Vision knows that, Vision wasn't a sentient being in the first place, but right. Vision was product of the Mind Stone. But nonetheless, they had their moment because, again, that was like his surrogate daughter.
Right.
So they had that moment. There was a lot of ends tied up. I know that we're going to get a Scarlet Witch series on the Disney Plus. I know we're going to get a Falcon and Winter Soldier series, but I don't think it's going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier anymore. I think it's going to be Captain America and Winter Soldier series, which Sam Wilson is going to be Captain America. We know that we're getting a Loki series because Loki escaped.
Right.
Loki escaped New York.
The Tesseract.
So
he took the Tesseract and.
So when Thanos killed Loki, Loki died.
Okay.
But when they went back to New York, they messed up getting the Tesseract unnoticed.
Okay.
Loki picks up the Tesseract and he teleports out of there. Right. So now we get a Loki show. Loki is alive in a different way,
Right.
and that's that. So if there's anything we missed, or if there's something that you didn't agree with, or if you agree with us, get in the conversation below. Let us know in the comments what you thought. I thought this was a great
Awesome
movie. What are you gonna give it?
Oh, 5 out of 5.
Oh, it's 5 out of 5 for
Five
me.
out of five. I don't think they missed anything.
This is undoubtedly one of the greatest superhero movies
Yeah.
of all time.
I will definitely admit to that as well.
One of the greatest superhero movies of all time. I'm gonna go back and see it for another time, and I'll dissect it some more. But yeah, this kind of it for me. I love it. Thank you guys for tuning us
Thank you so
in.
much.
It was a lengthy conversation, but it was a really fun one to have. And once again, let us know in the comments what you thought about it. If you saw it, if you didn't see it and you sit there for this long, I'm sorry. But we told you the title, it says it right there. It says it right there. Yep. See that right there? Spoiler talk. So, guys, I'm Dre. This is Q.
Yes.
Don't forget, we have to theaters, so you don't have to. See you next time on Theater Hoppers.